Says someone who hasn't played since the GameCube version.
Well,
hey guys, welcome to Collider Games Podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Starting off hot.
Yeah, so welcome to the new thing on the Collider Factory. This is, I guess it's going to be a regular thing now. We're going to sit in here, talk about games, and chat. Today, I've got a couple people on these hot mics. Over there is...
Cobster. Hey, Christian Ruvalcaba, that's my real name. I talk things.
Are we on camera? Because you're pointing.
Yeah.
I'm pointing so that the audience doesn't know who's going to talk next, so you guys can, like...
The element of surprise.
Make it
name's,
seem
Frank.
like a production
Frank,
of some kind. Yeah, hey, Frank. Frank, you have not been on a lot of content, so everyone, this is Frank. You can't see him, but this is his voice, at least.
His hair
Well, you
is
can
amazing.
see him in the
Oh, and that's
video we had
Dennis.
from E3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We
The
saw
Super
a little
Smash
bit
Brothers.
And we also have Dennis Tzeng here as well.
Yeah, I was supposed to be on
Dennis.
last week, but I got sick.
You got
I'm actually still
conflu.
sick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
Yeah.
really excited about that.
Yes.
In this
Be sitting in this
confined
room with me.
The worst part is it's going to soak into the soundproofing here as well, and this will be a constant plague room.
That's okay.
From now on.
I like that term, plague room.
Plague room.
That's a good word.
Yeah. But so I was going to say that we're all recovered from E3, but you're technically not.
I'm almost there. I'm good enough.
It's
I'm
like
good
the
enough.
con flu, but with
I
E3.
made the mistake of trying to come back on Monday after being sick, and that didn't work so well. So then I took Tuesday off, and I'm a lot better. I'm almost there.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
So real quick, do you want to give a rundown of some of your favorites and standouts from E3?
I mean, E3, is always a great time. The only thing is, like, if you don't go get those press appointments, like we did for some of the games, to check out and play games, you don't get to do anything. You walk around, and the lines are, you want to play one game, you got to wait for like 2-3 hours. But if you get an appointment, you go there and you wait maybe 15 minutes.
And last year was one of the first years that it was open to the public. Public could actually buy tickets. Before that, it is a press event where you have to have press access, but everyone else is like exhibitor or industry, and they just want to go around and play games.
That's a loose term. Even before they open to the public, you could easily get a press credential.
Yeah.
It's more about getting those appointments. That's when the real press get.
Yeah,
Exactly.
what else is there to do besides just play video games of games that haven't come out? Can you go to shops? Can you buy things? Kind of like
Not
how
really.
Comic-Con-
They
There's
don't-
stores, but it's not like Comic-Con where like there's third-party vendors that have, sell T-shirts and all that. Like Bethesda has their own store that you
okay.
have to line up for.
So there's no like small independent video game creators, like small independent comic book creators.
There are.
Okay, that's
but
cool.
but the lines for those aren't as long.
Yeah, well, so I know, because one of the things that I used to do, and the reason I used to go to E3 all the time is because I was working with IndieCade, and they would have setups of dozens of indie games that were playable, short lines. Developers were right there to talk to you about it, and it's just a matter of whether you're going there because you're a fan of games in general, or whether you want to play one specific game. Which
that's cool.
you could sit in line for 3 hours if you really, really wanted to play the new Assassin's Creed, and you would get to play it.
Yeah.
But and you'd probably get handed like a T-shirt or a hat at the end of it. But
So I like that. I've never been to E3. All three of you went to E3, right? Frank, you went to E3, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
three of us went.
Oh! Frank coming in hot. But see, I like that more than Comic-Con, whereas you actually get to have hands-on gameplay with it, as opposed to Comic-Con, when you go like to Hall H, you just see like a 10-second teaser, and then you're out. You're done. But at least with this, you're benefiting like, oh, I actually got to play it. I got to experience it. So that sounds a lot cooler. That's it, obviously if you're in the game.
Depends, though, because, I guess for Hall H, you do have to wait a significant amount of
Oh,
time.
I've slept on that.
The good thing about Hall H at Comic-Con is once you're in, they can't kick you out. So
Right.
if you get there in the
Right, you're
morning,
in there.
you can watch everything all day. And yes, there are some trailers and teasers that anyone can see online. But sometimes, I remember last year, me and Makuga watched the pilot premiere episode of Defenders.
I was there for that. Yeah, I remember that.
So
yeah.
and that was something they didn't release. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that. You get to see some of the cast or crew talk about stuff. So I don't know. There's good things
Pros
and
and
bad
cons,
things. Yeah.
And I guess that's the equivalent to the press conferences for E3. Like we got a lot of stage presentations through Sony and Ubisoft and EA and Devolver and Xbox, and I guess that's the equivalent of the panels
Yes.
and things like that. And then the booth space is really about getting as many people as possible to play the game, but it's heavily weighted to the people who can talk about the game, who can share their experiences. And, you know, I wouldn't put it past them to say it's weighted towards the people who have favored those games in the past. Like, after everything that we said last podcast, we're probably not getting invited to Nintendo. Hey, so...
You never know. I mean, you're talking about them, so at least, you know...
Right.
At least you're mentioning them. You'd be fine.
I mean, even...
No, yeah, it'll probably be fine.
Even through those few days that I went, I didn't play that many games. I played Spider-Man, which is great at the Sony booth. I did play, Frank will get jealous about this, but I played Trover Saves the Universe, which is Justin Roiland's, who co-created Rick and Morty. But not only that, when I was with Schnepp playing Spider-Man, Justin Roiland came in there.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then I got to meet him because Schnepp knows him.
Of course, yeah.
So,
Sweaty.
yes, it was very cool to meet the co-creator of Rick and Morty.
Yeah, I will say that area that PlayStation had, so they had their main setup booth, and then they had this little like backroom arcade that was, I think, was only for press.
Yeah.
And they had a couple games set up there, but not many setups. There were only like 2 setups for Days Gone and 2 for Spider-Man, and then like 1 for each other game. But there were a couple like not huge titles in there that we got to spend some time with. Like Dorian got to spend some time with that Dreams game. You guys got to play Justin Roiland's game. I got to play a little bit of a game called Concrete Genie, which look it up. I'm pretty much assuming that Concrete Genie is exactly how Frank grew up. Like that was his life.
You
Mystery
were so much
and-
better at that game than I was. I was watching you play. I had such
And
a
Frank
hard
lived
time.
it.
Yeah.
Was that a regular game or a VR game? Because I noticed where we were at had a bunch of different VR games in the back. Was that a VR game or was it a regular?
No, it was a regular game, and it was this kind of like Tim Burton-esque world of painting and making graffiti on walls in this dingy town, and you were
Painted a
trying to.
monster, and it like became your friend and followed you around.
Meanwhile, you're trying to avoid like bullies and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty much what I imagine
And
has
that's
led
all-
to
that
the
was how I
Frank
grew
today.
up.
That's just running away from bullies and
that was this morning.
graffitiing the walls,
On
right?
the way into work.
Okay,
Right.
so I have a question. So where we were at was like obviously for the press section. Sony had another press section somewhere else. So they had the regular outside. If you're the regular public, you can line up, right? Then they had a separate section that was bigger than the place that we went to that was for press as well.
Yeah.
And then we had our smaller one that we went to.
So
what
with
was that?
Xbox, they had an off-site place at the Microsoft Theater, which is right in LA Live across the
Yeah,
way, and that's where I got stuck for a little bit of time because I went in for an interview and ended up in the area where people were waiting in line to play games and things like that, and it was one of those like, if I leave, I'm not going to be able to get back in. So I need to play as many games as possible. So I went and played a bit of Jump Force. I played a little bit of Kingdom Hearts. Played a little bit of Forza Horizon 4. Just to get experience with all of them. Skull and Bones.
Frank.
Honestly, like there's so much of a weird pressure to like play through as much as possible while someone is waiting behind you with like a stopwatch, wanting to get the next person in.
What would you say like the average time for each game you got to play?
In there, I think it was like 5 minutes.
Oh, so you can't even really absorb it too much. It's just a quick boom, 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 and out.
No, yeah, like that area was more for people with just regular attendee badges, and it felt like it was kind of set up as people can tweet about the fact that they got to play the game.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And they couldn't shoot footage of that.
No, yeah. I mean, I was walking around with the camera and had it on my shoulder and pointing it at things, but
That kind of reminds me in a separate subject is when I went to Japan, I went to this ramen place, and it was a long line. Me and my sister got in there. We sat down and ate. But there's a person standing behind you while you're eating. It's not like they're waiting in line outside or on the... There's literally a person behind your seat waiting for you to finish eating so they can sit down. So you're like trying to eat,
right?
And we're tourists, so we're taking pictures of the food and whatnot, and we're trying to enjoy our. But they're
they like aggressively back there, or are they
no,
politely?
no. But like they're here because they want to eat and then go to work because it was like in the morning or during lunchtime. So they don't care about taking pictures or even enjoying their food. They want to eat their lunch and go. And you're sitting there like taking pictures and stuff. So
Can we talk about Skull and Bones? Because I didn't know that you played that because you and I have been kind of fighting since E3. Okay. So I didn't know that you got a chance to play.
Well, maybe I don't want to talk about it right now.
Damn it.
So is this the game you're most looking forward to?
It's like you just got Skull and
Boned. I went
Boned.
to E3. I thought that Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu was going to be my highlight. But seeing Skull and Bones was what I was most excited about.
Mm-hmm. Skull and Bones, people were saying that it is basically Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, and there's more customization to it, which is honestly a part that I couldn't get into enough because I couldn't research all the different cannons and things like that. But the controls feel better than Black Flag, or maybe not. They feel better, but different ships feel like they move differently in the water and things like that, and the amount of different ways to approach building a ship or using a ship and all of that, I'm super excited for that game.
Is this also like a big open world game? Is there like a story to it?
It seems the demo that I played only had just a little bit of float around and shoot some ships.
I think there is a story to it because they came out with this amazing cinematic trailer, which should be a movie in and of itself.
Ubisoft last year had a cinematic trailer for it, and they had a cinematic trailer for Beyond Good and Evil 2. And then they had 2 new cinematic trailers for both of those this year. They've been knocking it out of the park with story cinematic trailers.
But no Splinter Cell. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
So I still not entirely sure what the full game is going to be, but we're a little closer to knowing about it. One of the things that we're always sure about what the game is going to be, and one of the things that I want to talk about today is when we get remakes of games.
Oh, yeah.
We're all sitting waiting for Final Fantasy VII Remake that Square Enix has said that they're going to do, and they've promised it over and over, and they've shown trailers, and they've shown cinematic trailers, and what could be gameplay, but it's probably just a mock-up of gameplay. And then this time round, at E3, Capcom announced a remake of Resident Evil 2.
Well, they didn't just announce it. They announced that maybe 2 years ago or maybe a year ago. They announced it a while back, but we finally got to see a trailer for it. And it started off very clever. It started off like a little rat running around. You're like, what is this? Some people, were you guys saying, or maybe I was listening to a podcast, they were thinking it's some kind of VR rat game or something like that, where just zombies are all over you or something. I was like, that's kind of funny.
Right.
And then it reveals Leon and his beautiful baby face. And it's like, oh, this is it. And not only that, but then the next day or the day after, we got to see gameplay footage of that. And I've been just going all over the internet looking for that stuff because Resident Evil is my life. That's my bread and butter. That's my Star Wars for video games. That's everything to me. And that got me very excited because Resident Evil has also had a past of great remakes, or at least one great remake. And this looks perfect, like 10 times better than I could possibly imagine.
Well, they've had a past of remakes in general because they've told the story of one so many times. You know, you can do it in Deadly Silence. You can do it in, what was the rail shooter?
They had Umbrella Chronicles.
Umbrella Chronicles,
and there was another one after that, specifically for the Wii. I mean, I think those are great tools, especially like, hey, maybe I also like to think that remakes and reboots are good like testers. Like, oh, let's try this and see if they dig it, and if they dig it, then this is the next approach we'll go for, the regular game in the series. Yeah. Or like if you're Pokemon, you come out with your regular generation. Well, see, normally for Pokemon, they come out with like their generation like a X and Y, and then they come out with a re-release for Ruby and Sapphire. Just like, hey, we did this in the same graphics just for this older game. But it also plays on the nostalgia factor with Pokemon now. Well, it's called Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Let's Go Pikachu. And Let's Go
Pokemon
Eevee.
Now is a good name for a Pokemon.
It would be, yeah. But I meant now in the present time. That's what they're doing with this tester before the new generation.
Do we know what the pricing is on something like a Resident Evil 2 remake?
I would imagine it's probably going to be whatever
I
video
think I
games
saw
at
it
now,
was
like
under
60.
50.
Well, they're $60.
I think I saw it was under 50.
Okay.
It was like 47, 49.
I feel like something like that should be like $39.99.
Well,
right?
see, here's the thing though. Like, if it was just I think there's a difference between an HD re-release and an actual graphic rendered remake.
They have to rebuild the engine.
But what I would make the argument with Resident Evil 2 is that they said that some story beats are a little bit different. It's not exactly the original Resident Evil 2 games. And so certain character interactions may be different, or certain locations. And even the locations itself looks beautiful. It's a brand new entire game. And I hope they just expand it, because that first Resident Evil 2 game, like, I played that on Nintendo 64, and after me and my buddy beat it so many times, we went through that thing in like 2 hours. It was so quick because we knew exactly what to do. And one of my buddies, Jake Baldino, who has a great channel called Game Ranks, he got to play it, and he went in pretty cocky, like, yeah, I know exactly what to do. But no, there were new additions that they threw into it that he didn't know about, because he expected the original game, but they threw in some twists and turns, and I was like, okay, cool. So they're going all out. They're not just making a flat out remake. It's a little bit that and more.
Yeah, it's a great way to let people in on the story that happened in those, especially people that got in the later era of like 4 and 5, where it became an over-the-shoulder thing.
Yeah, because with the originals and the fixed camera angles that they had, I know a lot of people that wanted to play those games but couldn't get used to those controls. Not so much like Metal Gear Solid. I know, Dennis, you had a problem with Metal Gear Solid and how the original played out. This is like the fixed cameras were a little bit better, but people loved Resident Evil 4 so much. And I don't even think it was necessarily just the over-the-shoulder camera angle, but that sort of style. And with the Resident Evil 2 remake, it looks like a beautiful, beautiful mix of Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 7, because Resident Evil 7 brought the horror back, as opposed to 6 and Chris and Leon are jumping around and kicking things. I mean,
I
being superstars.
still like 5. I had a ton of fun.
Love 5.
Like,
I love 5.
5 is one of the few games that I got to play all the way through co-op with my brother.
Same
and
here.
Like we just,
with your brother. Yeah, I played with your brother. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you
Todd.
did. Oh
yeah,
right.
Todd Rassool.
Yeah, you had so many opportunities. I have 3 younger brothers, and you not one name right.
I could have picked an easier name than Todd. Okay.
But yeah, so apart from having to kill Wesker like 6 times, I had fun with that game.
Yeah, but yeah, so the idea of this being a remake gets me excited, makes me want to play the rest of the games, and talk about remakes and reboots in general in video games.
I'm actually a little surprised. I mean, I like Resident Evil. I don't love it as much, and I'm talking about the games, not the movies, because those suck.
Yeah, the movies suck. We
but
can all agree to that.
When they showed that trailer at the Microsoft press conference that me and Joey were at, like, people went nuts.
Yeah.
And like I thought, okay, is this a new game? Okay, it's a remake of an older game, so I didn't know that. And then on top of that, when we were walking the floor, they had a whole booth dedicated just to the remake. I'd never even heard of it. It's a remake, and they had a whole booth. And not only that, there was long lines for people to play the remake. So obviously this hits something in people like you.
Yes.
And other people. I enjoy Resident Evil, but
But that's the thing. Like, when you're making a remake, it's got to only be for the story, right? Because if they remade GoldenEye today, it would have nowhere near as much impact.
They did remake GoldenEye. There was GoldenEye 007 that came out for like Xbox, and I don't know if it was like an exact remake or
I think it was like an arcade title.
Was it an arcade title?
Yeah, I thought that was a different game in itself. But the point is that was such a big first-person shooter for everyone, and if they remade it, it wouldn't have that same impact, because the control layout is different. It's not as revolutionary in the moment. Like, either you want exactly what the previous one was, maybe with slightly better graphics, or you want a different game. Like, what you're asking for is a different game.
I think with GoldenEye 2, that's a little nostalgia as well. Like, I don't want to see a full rendered version of like GoldenEye looking beautiful. Like, I think there's something classic about that look that made it so special. And they called it a reimagining, but it came out for PS3 and Xbox 360. But I was never interested.
PS3, like I guess that is enough of a gap from N64.
Oh, that's
to
a big gap.
That's a big gap. Yeah, but I mean, like look at something like Kingdom Hearts, where we're getting the last version we had was on the PS2. And now we're getting a version on the PS4 and Xbox One.
That's nuts.
You know, they skipped the console generation as well. So honestly, like that, and that's just a continuation. You know, one of the things about that, not to get too much off topic, but I need to yell at Christian a little bit because we had Haley Joel Osment in studio, and yeah, and he voices Sora for Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, Sora!
And he's 30 now. And so I would have loved to talk to him about, you know, what is it like going back to this character that hasn't grown up.
He is confirmed coming back to that character too.
I mean, IMDb says yes. Okay. So he's doing the voice for that in Ventus. The character's grown up. Like you can see in the art that the character is growing up a little bit, but still like teenage.
Yeah.
So I mean, Haley Joel Osment's a talented actor and a talented voice actor, but such a big gap just for players between those two games. I imagine it's got to be ridiculous for an actor.
I'm not too familiar with the Kingdom Hearts games, but was there the last one that came out? Okay, so there was 2 that was on PS2, correct?
It was 1 and 2 on PlayStation 2. I don't know if the first one was on PlayStation 1. No, it was on PlayStation 2.
Okay. Did they eventually come out with another remake for those games in that time period in between that gap?
They have done HD re-releases, but, you know, it just upped graphics and, you know, no rehashing of controls or anything like that.
Yeah, because I always feel like that's like a nice, like, hey, because did they mention Kingdom Hearts 3 at any point in that time, or was it just kind of like we're sitting and waiting?
Oh,
like how no one's ever going to get it?
It's been mentioned so many times. This is like the 3rd year of E3 that they've put the logo up.
Wow, really?
The date's been pushed back a bunch. And then also to your point about the re-releases, they've done re-releases where they added a little extra content.
Oh, that's
the
cool.
equivalent of DLC. So they did like a 1.5 version, 1.8, a 2.5, and then just added little bits of the story. But the biggest thing that makes Kingdom Hearts so convoluted is there are like 6 games that came out for the Game Boy.
Oh, okay.
For the Game Boy Advance, for the for the SP, for the DS, and they're all story canon.
Oh no!
And they're all convoluted in story canon.
Oh, that's
so like you need to go on a real deep dive to understand the story.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're gonna do in terms of if you've only played the console games, are they gonna make 3 palatable for someone who's only played the console games? But at the same time, like Kingdom Hearts in general, the story is convoluted and hard to grasp, so they might just roll with it.
I feel like they would make it cater towards the people that played it on the platforms. Also because, I mean, wasn't Elsa like a big part of the trailers for this?
Yeah. So they're folding in new Disney worlds and things like that.
So maybe they're trying to cater towards the kids a little bit that just want to see their favorite Disney characters on screen, but like the hardcore fans can still pay attention to the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need like
play it just for Jack Sparrow.
Okay.
I saw him in the trailer.
That actually looked really good.
Is it Johnny Depp voicing him too?
Probably not. But it was a guy trying to be Johnny Depp, trying to be Jack Sparrow. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
How can we get Frank to voice him? How do we do that? Well, let's get that working.
Get on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's not exactly a remake. They've done HD re-releases, and I'm fine with HD re-releases because like one of the things, like my wife got really into playing Fable, and she played Fable 2 and 3, and I was like, yeah, but you got to play Fable 1. Fable 1 is the one like
notoriously not great. Or
well,
is it?
It's the only one that's actually challenging, and I like the story of it.
It's like trying to play the first Assassin's Creed just to play the other ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but they did an HD re-release of Fable 1. So she got the opportunity to play it because of that. So things like Assassin's Creed 1, I think like that would.
Sorry.
just so people have the story and have that background, I think that deserves maybe not an HD re-release, but a true remake.
That would be cool, and if they up the mechanics of the game itself and try not to make it as repetitive.
Yeah.
I know, Dennis, you're excited for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right?
Yes.
You not so much, Joey.
I am probably going to enjoy playing it if I do.
It looks cool.
We are so far away from the story of the game that I enjoyed that I just and admittedly, I didn't finish Black Flag.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't finish the story of it. I played a decent amount.
With
of
that one, did they just completely ignore the Abstergo stuff? That's just out of there.
At this point, the foreground story is entirely gone.
Okay.
Abstergo is almost like a theme park.
Okay.
Where you get loaded into people from history's memories.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that so.
Yeah, because I dropped off at 3 with the whole Desmond stuff. So
yeah, no,
I never played after that.
Honestly, Desmond was one of my favorite parts of the game because you were playing and then you would come out and learn that story.
Right. Not Dennis's favorite.
Yeah. I like all this stuff. I don't care about the Abstergo stuff like that. Just
well, see, there's the audience. I mean, now it seems to be working. Now I know Origins wasn't necessarily a hit, I think, for them, but this Odyssey seems like to be right back on track.
You were still an assassin. This was this is where the order started and all that. With Odyssey, there's no indication of the Assassin's Order.
They'll retcon stuff.
You brought up a good point earlier that maybe it's the origins of the Templars, but
that's pretty cool.
They'll retcon stuff story-wise just so you can play this game. They'll be like Assassin's Creed 2058 where they're just going to be in the future and they're going to, you know what I mean?
I'm surprised that hasn't happened.
It will happen someday.
Yeah. I just need them to admit that this series is where in time is Assassin's Creed, and make it like Carmen Sandiego games and just be like, we're gonna be here now.
Don't worry, Joey.
That's all I need.
I think you're gonna get an HD collection at some point. The Ezio and Altair HD collection.
Yeah, some re-release.
Yeah.
I think they did a re-release of the Ezio storyline. Or no, they did bundle packs, but I don't think they upped the graphics.
Oh yeah, you're right. They did do a bundle pack, but I don't think it's up the ante because those graphics look great. I mean, they're probably a little dated now, but for the time, those look really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think we're at the point where we can be releasing re-releasing certain games in HD and in 4K and stuff like that. And even if they just get that little facelift, there's not much changing to the mechanics. There's not much new content or anything like that. I'm still fine with that. Also, honestly.
But are you guys big on buying remakes or HD upgrades? Because I'll be honest with you, I will not buy them for games that I've already beaten. I just don't have enough time to play old games that I've already beaten when I still have all these new games that I haven't finished yet. So I'll only buy something, let's say, that I haven't played or finished before.
What if it came out a long time ago? Let's talk about the dragon in the room here. Spyro Reignited is the reason we're even
I
am so excited.
I barely played Spyro a little bit, and I saw that trilogy remake, and I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Yeah.
And that's if you ever just, like a random hunger craving, you just went, man, I need to play Spyro.
Yeah.
To pull out one of your old systems and try and plug it into a modern TV.
Right.
We were trying to get a GameCube working, and I had to go buy an adapter from Amazon just to get the cables to work.
Yeah.
So just to have it accessible on a modern console, even if they were going to do a direct port and say, hey, this is available here now.
Well, they're doing that with the Switch. They're releasing a lot of the old NES games on the Switch.
Yeah.
So if you didn't buy the NES Classic, now you can start to just play them.
I like that because some of my earliest memories playing video games was Super Nintendo, so that would make me. Let's be honest.
I said NES, not Super Nintendo.
Oh damn it! I'm sorry. I thought you had SNES. All right, never mind. Retcon that. What?
Well,
and we're back.
And we're back.
Yeah.
And we're back.
So new re-release of Spyro. They also did Crash Bandicoot recently.
Crash Bandicoot.
But there's been plenty of them. Honestly, especially if it's a game where you play for a short period of time, where you're not going to play like a full. But I guess that kind of flies in the face of what I was saying earlier, where like you want people to experience the story, and it's the kind of people who won't go back and play an old system.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like both. I think we all like to play retro games all the time, and like when, not to say this is necessarily a retro game, but when, you know, I played the crap out of the first Halo, and then they were like, we're going to come out with an anniversary, up the ante with all the graphics and make it look great. I'm like,
the Master Chief Collection. So I love Halo as well, but I didn't buy it just because
it looks so good. Did you play Halo 2, the remake?
No, I didn't. Which I do think that one actually needed a graphical upgrade, because I remember when Halo 2 came out after the first one, and I was like, these graphics look worse than the first one, and I was like, I was very disappointed. So it'd be cool. I just don't know if I want to go back and play all through Halo 1, Halo 2. You know,
do you normally like play through, like once you play a game once, like you're done?
I will go back. Yeah, if it's an RPG storyline, like something like a Fallout, a Mass Effect, I will go back and play, because you can do different branches.
Right.
Halo, not so much, just because there's no branching. It's the same game, right? It's the same game all the way. And Halo there's so many now. So no, I tend not to go back unless there's a good reason to.
Okay.
Well, any games that you've played like multiple times? What's the most that you've played through one?
The Resident Evil remake. I swear to God, I've played that thing 20 times. Like,
well,
and so, there's two different story paths you can go on, but it's all, like you said, it's all the same path. There's nothing new that I ever discover. It's just when like a new game comes out, like when Resident Evil 7 came out, I binged every single canonized Resident Evil game, just because like I love revisiting. It's like reading a book or rewatching a movie. I just love experiencing that all over again.
Listen. I'm an old person, especially in this room. Is this something that younger people do? Like, okay, like when I go watch a movie, like when I watch Return of the King, I watched the Fellowship of the Ring Extended Edition, and I watched Two Towers Extended Edition before I went to. Like, I'm talking about literally right before. So I spent the whole day, then I watched Return of the King. That's something I do. TV series, same thing. Before Game of Thrones, I will sometimes binge the entire series if I start soon enough. I don't do that with video games. Is that something you guys do with video games?
Well, I'm trying to do it right now with Kingdom Hearts. Okay. And so this is one of the things that I wanted to hit on. There is a nostalgia factor to it. There are some rose-tinted glasses for sure. There's always that one level that you forget about, that you're like, God, fuck this level.
Yeah.
So
Halo the Library. Halo the Library.
The Library.
Yeah, fuck that.
I am stuck in Kingdom Hearts 1 in Ariel's world right now, because like the map mechanics are really shitty, and all of a sudden you have 3D space to traverse in because you can swim. And so I'm like, all these caves look the same. I don't know which one I'm supposed to go in. And every time I try what I think is all of them, I end up in the same place. So I'm just going to quit, and I'm going to go back to playing Witcher.
Yeah. Like Mount Moon and Pokemon Red.
You had to bring it up?
Yeah, I had to bring that up. A friend of mine has been playing a lot of Pokemon Go. I realized she had never played the original Pokemon Red and Blue, so I gave her my Game Boy.
You gave her the original?
I said, play Pokemon Red.
You can't even run, Frank.
But
you have
get
to
ready,
walk.
because they put the worst level like
right
up
at the beginning.
Like, you just got to grind through that.
Right.
I was never a fan of Lavender Town either. It's just like,
but that comes at the end.
I know, but still, it's the creepy ass music.
The creepy ass music that was said to drive kids insane,
suicide,
make them suicidal.
Yeah, not good. Dun, dun, dun. Hey, easy. We got to get through this podcast first.
I was gonna say, if our audience is not already suicidal from listening to us, thank you guys.
Hey,
welcome to new podcast.
But also to add to that, Dennis, I think one of the reasons, like at least when I was in middle school or going into high school, replaying a lot of games was the achievements. Okay. The achievement hunter, if you will, like those. I got into that for a period of time where.
Great plug for another channel. Thanks.
It was. They are another channel. I'm sorry. I already mentioned Game Ranks too. They're all friends. But when I play like Gears of War, like those games, I was like, I got to get all the achievements. And then when they introduced Horde mode, it was like all my buddies, all of us together trying to get achievements. Guitar Hero. Oh my God, we tried getting all those. What, Frank? Frank's looking at me like, we play Guitar Hero too.
Frank, do you know anything about rhythm games?
Oh, are we gonna get into this now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and touch on this now.
Have you beaten Freebird on Expert? Thank you.
No, I haven't.
I did it on bass. It wasn't guitar. It was a lot easier.
So what?
All right. So we were gonna get
Beat Saber.
Beat Saber
is the greatest game that's ever been made.
Is that like the?
And I'm also the greatest Beat Saber player in this entire office.
Oh,
So-
wow. Gauntlet thrown down.
Okay.
So why don't you explain what Beat Saber is for people who haven't
It's
Is that
like-
like DJ Hero?
That game was pretty fun, actually. If you didn't have
There's
to buy
some
the
good music
whole,
that came out of DJ Hero.
you didn't
Oh,
have to buy the
no.
whole, Beat Saber is a VR game
Oh, okay.
that's similar to Guitar Hero, but you're holding two lightsabers, a red one and a blue one, and colored blocks are coming at you, and you have to hit the red blocks with the red saber, blue blocks with the blue saber.
You kids in your VR.
But there's arrows on the block, so you have to hit it in the certain direction. So you're basically doing like a sword fight dance thing. It's
Okay.
amazing.
It
Okay.
almost works almost like Fruit Ninja in that you've got to cut the blocks as they come to you.
Okay.
But it's to a rhythm.
I'd probably beat you at that.
I've got to say,
I've got no preference.
Can we stop the podcast now? And,
No, we
and
gotta
go
keep
play
going,
this, and
Frank.
then we'll come back.
Okay, we can come back. Yeah.
before we get into a Beat Saber fist fight here, I got to say that this game, when it comes to rhythm games, it was satisfying when you were playing Guitar Hero and you kind of nailed a song or something like
And
that.
the crowd's going wild. Yeah.
And or even just a section, you see it coming towards you and like, oh, that looks like way harder than I can do, and then you do it and you're like,
When you're
oh,
playing Sweet
great.
Child of Mine behind your head, like I used to do.
No lie, I would say a Rock Band. If you play the drums on Rock Band,
That's how I learned to play the drums.
That legitimately, you will learn how to play the drums, or at least have rhythm and tempo from playing that game.
Beat Saber is so satisfying when you get it right.
Well,
It
I'm
just
gonna have to beat you at Beat Saber.
everything comes towards you. You're like, I don't know if I can do it, and then just all of a sudden your body just kind of kicks in, and you're like, I got past that bit.
I was here until 8 o'clock last night trying to beat Duel of the Fates. Dorian wanted to play it after me. He said he couldn't put the visor on because it was too sweaty. Because I was so like tense till
that's
I beat
gross.
it. Yeah.
What's the song that like the first level song that you guys were all playing?
$100 bills. We're gonna have a tournament here. $100 bills on hard. We're gonna see who the ultimate beat master is.
Do it in 2 tries.
Yeah, I like. I mean, I got to see Thad try it, and seeing Thad jump from side to side in VR. I was so nervous that he was going to smack his shit into
There's
that
like
coffee
two ways
table.
we've watched a couple people play it, and like there's the people who are just like literally trying to hit the blocks, but it's a rhythm game. You gotta like get into the
Yeah.
You're basically supposed to like dance while you hit this thing, you know?
And as people that have played in bands before, it's easy for us.
Right.
Are we
Well-
still in a band?
No, but I imagine
No,
you
I
were
said
in a band.
are we?
I don't know. You
right.
haven't called.
It's true.
All right.
It's
But,
another- it's
Sorry,
another
game.
podcast.
Game. Yeah, that's another one.
But Wendy played and Perry played, and like maybe we can get the whole office involved in this tournament.
It's a
we're
tournament,
doing
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
I'm down. I'll win, but I'm down.
Will we film it and put it on the channel? Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for
Stay
that.
tuned. So what going real quickly back to Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
If they didn't do a re-release or a remake, and they'd done the story as it should be in a movie, would you be okay with, or do you even think that can be done? Because we've
Okay.
had Resident Evil films,
We have Resident Evil films, and
or we have films that have a Resident Evil
title on it, and some of the characters in it, but not necessarily represented well enough. If we're going to go into this whole video game movie debacle, look, until there is a movie that is good, like I have not, to this day, I have not seen, this is a really good movie. You cannot prove to me that a video game movie will work, because one, for the most part, a video game was meant to be played. Now, you can take a story from that and adapt it into a movie and make it well, but for some reason, they just can't nail that.
Yeah, but I mean it's still early. I mean that's what
long
they said.
until-
How
how
early?
long
That's what
until
they
we-
said about comic book movies
how
for
long
the
till we get a
longest
good
time.
superhero movie?
Well, that's true, but we've gotten it. How
Yeah,
long have video
now.
games been around?
Not as long as comic books.
That's
Comics-
very
Comics
true.
books have been around a while.
But we've also had I don't know what the very first video game movie was, but I mean, ever since when
Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, when
Oh,
Mortal
yeah.
Kombat is your best video game movie, then
Mortal Kombat is not the best video game movie.
It's the most fun one.
It's the most
Yeah,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the most fun one.
I think the
would
closest
say.
we've gotten is Tomb Raider. Everyone
Tomb
seemed
Raider's
to
decent.
decent,
Raider.
but still, like Oh, is it called Lara Croft Tomb Raider?
No, I meant to say Angelina Jolie, but she's so like ingrained as Lara Croft in my head.
Oh, I see.
I wanted to clarify you weren't talking about the new Tomb Raider.
I was talking about the new Tomb Raider.
Oh.
I thought it was
Glad
decent.
I clarified.
Now, see, I like the Doom movie, but that's awful. It's a bad movie, but I enjoy it.
I like Resident Evil Apocalypse.
I like the first Resident Evil, and Resident Evil Extinction's fine, but
I don't like anything with Michelle Rodriguez in it. So.
Oh no, you're just sexist.
If she is her own separate sex, then yeah,
Okay,
I'll
fine.
admit to that.
Yeah, you're Michelleist.
Yeah,
There
I'm
you go.
Michelleist.
There, that's what you are. But I think they need to take it more serious. I feel like they're like, oh, this is a brand. Yeah, let's throw a hot actor in there. No, get good talent. Get good talent to do it. And the Assassin's Creed movie had everything going for it.
Yeah, and it sucked
The
balls.
Assassin's
Yeah.
Creed
It was terrible.
storyline
I just
sucked.
think
It's horrible.
They need to work with the game creators themselves, or maybe even the game creators need to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see that branch a little bit. You know, I got to interview Elijah Wood and Benoit Richard.
Nice.
French
Can
names.
you say that
Excuse
again?
me? Yeah.
Benoit Richard.
Gesundheit, yeah.
From Ubisoft.
Yes.
And they're working together on a VR game called Transference. But, you know, Spectre Vision, which is Elijah Wood's company, is usually an indie horror production house.
Yeah.
So there's film narrative sensibilities being applied to the video game, and hopefully that means that they can, you know, kind of reverse that stream and work on Ubisoft content with, you know, for a film or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
hopefully that goes both ways. But that's not, you know, that's not the first collaboration that has ever existed between movies and video games. Like,
Right.
Warner Brothers should be able to pull this off.
Yeah. I know a lot of people didn't a lot of other people like Warcraft? Well, it was like okay. Like Warcraft fans really dug it. Or
I
not.
thought it was okay, and then I think overseas it did actually pretty well. But I think it's a generational thing, just like comic books. Like when they first started making comic book movies, it was people that had no idea or cared about comic books, right?
Yeah.
And they did a lot of shitty ones. You had Superman. The first one was good, and the second one was good, and then it started to go downhill. Then for a while there was
horrible Tim Burton Batman.
Yeah, the really bad one. So bad.
yeah. Then you have the awesome '89 Tim Burton
worst.
Batman.
It's pretty bad.
It's
yeah.
pretty bad. Dennis.
And then it's great.
Pretty horrible.
The only problem is after
One
that,
of Tim Burton's worst.
after that, there's a lot of terrible Tim Burton movies. So that's
Especially
saying a
Batman
lot.
Especially Batman '89.
It continues.
Alice in Wonderland called.
Yeah, that is a terrible movie.
Yeah.
But anyways, after the success of that, they tried to do a bunch of comic book movies, and those all sucked.
That's fair. I guess there's just the video game trend is just late to the game. Once that first one hits, then I feel like people will be like,
But then when you're talking about talent, though, you have to have the talent that grew up playing video games, that understand them and understand what will work in a movie. And I think that's what we're getting with. That's why we're such in a comic book / superhero age right now. Is because now you have people who did grow up on these things, and they are being taken seriously. You have someone like Kevin Feige who's overseeing, let's say, Marvel, and he knows about the whole thing. So I think that's what you need to come to with video games.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're there yet because
Well,
video
it's
games
also-
really didn't, Nintendo was in the 80s, the first NES. And so you're now just starting getting people who are like really into video games in powers of position.
But it's also interesting because there's been like really successful movies about video games.
Yes.
Like Wreck-It Ralph.
Stay
or
Alive.
Jumanji was basically a video game movie.
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah, that's true.
So
Well-
it's just like adapting the source material that's not working.
There's really good
People are-
documentaries
people
about
are ready
video
for
games.
video game movies.
Well, and I want to make one thing clear that, like, when we're talking about a movie of a video game, I'm not going to count things like Rampage.
Yeah,
That's fair.
It's the equivalent of the movie Battleship being based off the Hasbro game. No, it
Yeah, it's
wasn't.
not.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
they-
just
or
a
House of
that's
the
a
Dead.
brand name thing.
It's a brand name thing. So we need like a narrative game being translated into a movie. Is there?
Tomb Raider counts.
Raider counts.
Warcraft counts. Hopefully they'll do a Halo movie at some point.
yeah,
a
so I wanted to
Bioshock.
talk
Peter
about
Jackson
Halo
was supposed
because
to do
I think that could have been like the one that actually works.
Yeah.
The Neil Blomkamp version.
Yeah.
So the first Halo was the reason I got an Xbox, because that was the first time I felt like I was playing a movie. You asked like how many times have you played through a game? I played through the first Halo like 5 or 6 times.
I did play that one.
It was like watching a movie.
times,
Yes.
Yeah.
So like that was the one that I think could have been adapted. Like they came out with books when the first Halo came out.
I will say, they forward into Dawn.
Forward Unto Dawn,
For
yeah.
I don't know if it was like for Netflix, but it's on. I've seen it on Netflix. It was actually really
through
good.
Machinima.
Yeah. Yes.
I think I saw part of it. I don't think I saw.
Pretty
the whole
good.
thing.
It's actually really good. And I remember like seeing like a test. I don't know if it was like a fan short film of like really shaky cam war footage of
Neil
like.
Blomkamp.
Yeah.
Was
Neil
that the
Blomkamp-
one?
Yeah.
So
that
that
was
was
all.
good.
So basically, the
District 9
ad
was-
campaign that led into Halo 3 was amazing. That's when they had all
The
the
live
trailers of-
action,
like the museum.
They
pieces
built the
and everything.
warthog and everything.
Yeah, like
yeah.
that universe is made to be in a movie, and you could also, especially with like Rogue One, like the way that they did that, where you were following the average person, and then you see Darth Vader come in. Like Darth Vader could be what Master Chief is, where you're like following the average soldier, and then you.
So
like,
you wouldn't follow Master Chief as the main character?
No,
I think it'd be
that's
cooler
actually
than-
more or less what they did in Forward Unto Dawn. You know, you were following recruits, and then the
Yeah,
base.
Master Chief can't be the main character. I mean,
No.
unless you
He
want to
didn't talk.
pull,
'Cause he's a
Judge
nameless,
Dredd thing
faceless-
situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's cool about that though, they could still have the dude who voices John.
Yeah,
be
yeah,
part
yeah.
of it. He can still do. The
Yeah,
voice.
he still obviously would have to be a big part of.
Yeah.
the
Cortana,
movie.
imagine casting Cortana. I mean, that
Yeah.
would be like a big star. They get Scarlett
Scarlett, I was
Johansson.
just
Yeah,
thinking
they
Scarlett
probably get Scarlett
Johansson.
Johansson.
That's probably what they do.
Straight from her voice from her.
Yeah.
Like perfect.
Basically.
Let's get Spike Jonze Halo movie. Let's get that going. Yeah.
So I mean, Halo is a good one that could be translated. One of the ones that I know has been thrown around for the longest time
I know where you're going with this.
is BioShock.
Oh damn it! I thought
Where'd
you were
you-
gonna
where'd
go
you think
Uncharted.
he was going?
Uncharted. I thought he was going.
Uncharted. Well, yeah,
Second.
Uncharted would make a good film, I think, but you know,
BioShock is great because it's a voiceless hero. Like you just throw, unless you do the Booker DeWitt story. But I think
don't
you stick
you
with
can
it.
make a BioShock movie.
No, you don't think at all?
I don't think it can happen. And my reasoning behind it is this: there's a big part of the story that is about you making decisions.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a big part of the story that questions why you go forward. And with a movie, if you pose that question to the audience will be like, "Well, I was just sitting here." I mean, I don't.
Similar to kind of like Mass Effect. I feel like Mass Effect could also be, but that's still that decision making process in that as well.
Yeah.
That really like helps truly define the game.
Yeah, any of the multi-branching stories, they're out. You know, like Detroit was one of the things that we were like, this is like playing a movie, but it really isn't. You couldn't ever make a Detroit movie because you'd have to choose one of the
Well, I think
storylines to
that's
do.
also like that's an interesting thing that like maybe movies and video games aren't necessarily meant to like video games are sort of becoming like a new form of a movie, you know,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
playable movie. So it's like especially with like VR getting bigger and bigger, like it might just be a mix of the two going forward rather than trying to perfect the how do we adapt the source material.
Yeah, because
But that's way down the line, though. When you're talking
Yeah.
about like, I think eventually there will be like VR movies where you
Yeah.
literally sit down and then you just
that sounds awful.
you play.
Sorry.
I mean, the thing is VR is going to get better and better.
Yeah.
What we're doing right now, you know, with a lot of these RPGs it's basically an interactive movie. at
Yeah.
some point,
Well, I
so.
mean, but it's one of those things like 3D would have gotten better and better and better if we had stuck with the technology, but we kind of strayed away.
Well, no
from
one
it.
wanted to wear the glasses. I think 3D
And
would
then
be
you think
fine.
the VR headset's going to be any better?
No, they're. I mean, I don't know if you've seen like something like what is it, the HoloLens? Like the way that lens
Yeah.
is going smaller and smaller. At some point, if technology is what is, this is what I always say. 'Cause people used to say this when I was in film school, because I was all into digital editing and shooting, and people are
it's
like,
better.
and yes, but at that time I was shooting on mini DV, and people are like, it looks like shit. I'm like, but the technology will get better. So that's the same thing with this. Eventually, the technology will get better where, you know, VR or you're talking about 3D where it's like, okay, now you don't have to wear the glasses or the glasses will be very, very light. And so
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where it just needs time.
Do you know what wasn't shot on digital? Batman '89.
And that's why it's the worst.
Yeah,
God.
all those new Transformers movies are shot on film. So
That is a fact, and you can look up more facts at collider.com.
Oh, hey, nice
Hey,
plug.
But honestly, with what we got out of like storylines, speaking of Batman, what we got out of stories with like Arkham City and
wonderful games.
Arkham Knight is also a thing.
I played through like 4 or 5 times.
Arkham Knight's great. It's just minus the tanks. I could have done
that. Was a lot of tank.
There was a lot of tank battle.
God,
on
I
that
love
shit.
that.
That was way too much.
Here's the thing: in Arkham City, Riddler is, and I'm a big fan of Riddler. Riddler is perfect in Arkham City, and in Arkham Knight, he fucking sucks.
Oh, okay. Oh, Joey.
I mean,
he's riddle me this, Joey.
He's wearing like a Tommy Bahama, button up, and he's building racetracks. Like, I mean, you'd think that would appeal to me, but no, he's supposed to be smart and outthinking.
It's gonna be okay.
People,
it's gonna be okay.
You know what? I have my issues with that game, and I don't need to bring them up now. I've got a lot of video game memories that spark either good memories or bad memories. In fact, one of the earliest I mentioned this on last podcast. One of the earliest game memories I have is...
You guys did another podcast before this?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Frank, you weren't on that one?
No, I guess I
was.
was.
I was not either.
Oh, Dennis. Ooh, I wasn't on that. Ooh, only Joey.
Yeah. So one of the earliest memories that I have is playing Doom, which was like 93.
That's your earliest video game memory?
Yeah,
You're young as shit.
Fuck.
Wait till you hear my earliest video game memory.
Well, okay, but we didn't have consoles or anything like that. This is my dad's computer that had like a dual boot kind of thing. Like you had to boot into Doom, and I like as a kid I was not allowed to run around with any of the guns or anything like that because guns are bad. But totally allowed to run around with the chainsaw. That's was fine.
Yeah.
I was like,
well, that's like a utility tool.
Yeah,
exactly.
In retrospect, I'm like, that's not any better.
She's like, Dad, I'm practicing for cutting the bushes outside.
I'm cutting up demons with a chainsaw.
Exactly.
And punching them with a poison ring.
Good moral lessons in that game.
Yeah, I think honestly, but that was a game when it got re-released on the Xbox 360. I totally went back and revisited that.
Yeah, that's where I first played it. I remember seeing over the shoulder of people, like family members playing it. I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" And I've been told I can't watch it because it's too scary. I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I got into a big Doom 3 phase, which is a really good game. And then I also went back and played 1 and 2. I'm like, "Oh, this is cool."
Yeah,
this is
like
nice.
honestly, that music for Doom 1, that like I think that triggers so many memories for people. That
Yeah.
Any early video game memories for you guys?
Sorry, Dennis, but Super Nintendo was the very first one.
Oh my God.
And like I never had it myself. I didn't own a Super Nintendo. Couldn't really afford it.
The kid across the street.
Yeah, but I no, it wasn't kid across. It was my aunts. My aunts used to babysit me all the time when I was younger, and they would play Super Mario World, Donkey Kong. There was this one game I eventually got hooked on because they eventually grew out of the Super Nintendo and gave it to me, and it was Super Buster Bros. You guys remember that game? It's like you're a little dude and you're shooting up like these little chains that bubbles and they pop and they start going all over the place. It's wonderful little scroller thing, and it was just. That was one of my earliest favorites. And the worst Jurassic Park Super Nintendo game where you could not save anytime, so I'd never beat it. You die, you start from the very beginning. I don't know who made that decision, but how dare you, sir? Because I wanted to play that so much.
All right, Dennis, we'll get to yours in a second.
Yeah.
Frank?
The very first video game I ever remember playing was on the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was the Fisher-Price Firehouse Rescue.
Wow.
And you played... This game was amazing. You were a fire truck, a Fisher-Price fire truck, and you had to like drive around a little like maze to go to the burning building, which was never on fire because that would have been scary. And you had to like drive your truck up to the building and line up the ladder so that the guy could get down. And then you had to like drive to the tree, and then the cat would come down.
Oh, you're saving cats.
You were saving cats from trees, people from buildings.
I want to see this movie.
That was that would be a great movie.
Yeah.
The first video game I ever remember being like obsessed with was the Super Nintendo King of the Monsters 2. Did you guys ever play that?
No. King of the Monsters.
You played as either a robot monkey, a Godzilla-looking guy, or like Atomic Man. You could like pick up buildings and throw them, and then you'd have to like grapple.
Was it like a Rampage style thing?
Sort of. And I remember I always had a blister on my left thumb because you had to like rub the D-pad back and forth, like left and right, over and over to like shake the guy. Love that game.
Okay.
All right, Dennis, where are you at?
Oh my god. Listen to you guys with your fancy buttons and stuff like that. The first game that I ever played was like a knockoff of Pong. It wasn't even the real Pong.
It's Bong.
It was like one of those.
ping pong?
It was like one of those multi-game systems, but really it was just the same game, but just because it was
Right.
like Pong, right? So they had like
And they
50
just
million
skinned it differently each time.
Well, no, it's just each time they had different things, like a different. Yeah, I won't even call it a map. A little different design to them. Might also the Atari 2600. I never owned one, but
What's that? Atari? What is
yeah,
it?
Atari
I
20.
don't know. I know what it is.
It's that big sign in Blade Runner.
Oh yeah, Blade Runner. Yeah.
I didn't own one, but my aunt had one. She didn't have any kids, so she bought one. So when me and my cousins would go over, we'd play it, and we'd play. You know, they at that time that adventure game that you saw in Ready Player One. They had Superman, E.T., all those games. But yeah, those are my earliest video games. That's before. I mean, those things. I guess the Atari 2600 had one button. It had one button you could press. It had a joystick and one button. But before that, with the Pong stuff, it's just a dial.
It was a wheel. Yeah.
Just a wheel. But then, I eventually got an NES and whatnot, and all the other games or all the systems after that. But
Hey, Dennis,
Yeah.
how old are you?
super old.
Okay.
Super old. Yeah, if you guys were talking about like first video game experience on Super Nintendo, I'm
I
like,
said
Jesus.
NES. for
NES.
mine.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't. My first console I owned was a Nintendo 64.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got that on my birthday. Super Mario Party.
my first was a GameCube.
Whoa!
But not that GameCube.
You're not a real gamer.
No, seriously.
not a real gamer.
I was 12 at the time, and like, because I played PC games and stuff like that before that. But
Are you like PC Master Race or something like that?
No. I really wanted a console. All my friends had consoles, and my parents were like, "No, we don't want something that's dedicated to video games. Like, if you're gonna play video games on the computer, that's fine. You can play."
You can play Super
Window-
Mario type.
Well, I used
Oregon
to
Windows-
Trail.
that at the time.
Oregon Trail.
You can play Windows Pinball all you want.
I used to have an Apple II that I used to have tons of games on. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, like I had plenty of games like on disc and stuff for that, but the first console was GameCube, and I was always like a little bitter about it because I got that console when I was 12, but my youngest brother got it at the same time, so he got it when he was 3. So he's
Oh my
had
God.
consoles in his life the whole time. So
Wow.
But you're on a gaming podcast. And he's
right,
not.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
He is not.
So obviously,
Todd.
video games don't have a negative effect on you.
I think we've got
anyway.
a caller. Todd is calling.
Todd's
in now.
calling in.
Todd's calling in now.
Joey.
All right, guys. Well, looks like we ran out of time for that call. Unfortunately, that's the end of the podcast. Look at the time we got to go. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another Collider Games podcast. You can check out the new Collider channel, Collider Games. That's youtube.com/Collider Games. We've got all our E3 coverage that's up, plus we've got some interviews coming
Let's look
together.
for Beat Saber competition coming soon.
And because we're such experts on Super Smash, maybe we'll play some Super Smash as well.
Everyone's going down. Dorian's going down.
Copster, where can everyone find you on the internet?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Copster15. Follow me there.
I'd prefer if they didn't.
Oh, Frank's
okay.
gonna.
All right.
Frank's gonna
Frank
hide.
also has a Twitter at Frank the Editor, which I created for him. So go follow him and harass him.
And Dennis, where can everyone find you?
You guys can find my Twitter at ThinkHero or Instagram Dennis.tzng, and then you'll find me on Collider Games sometimes and Collider Video as well.
And you can find me at Joey Rassool. That's RASSOOL on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks so much. Take care, guys. Bye.